What's going on, everybody? This is Seahawks Today. I am your host, Will Ortner, and we got to discuss some major issues with the Seattle Seahawks, or maybe I guess I should say a major issue with the Seattle Seahawks that people are blaming in two different spots. Some people are blaming the offensive line. Some people are blaming Sam Darnold, and we really got to discuss who is to blame for all of the issues. But I do have to say, thank goodness we played Brian Flores early. And thank goodness the Minnesota Vikings suck butt, and we're not able to take advantage of a stellar defensive performance from Brian Flores and the rest of that Vikings defense. They really shut down the Seahawks offense and exposed a clear weakness. Now, Seattle has plenty of time to fix it before you get into some meaningful games like you will have those last 4 weeks of the season, but it's really going to take some time and due diligence for this team to get there. What's the issue? We're going to get into that here in just a moment. But before we do so, help us out. We're trying to grow the family, right? We're in that sub-battle with the Atlanta Falcons. We need you to help us get new Seahawk fans to the channel, or Seahawk fans who haven't found the channel yet, the ability to come on over and subscribe. So help us out by sharing out this video. If you got a Seahawks friend or family member in your life and you want them to check out the content that we have here on the channel, share the video with them over on social media. All right, so some people have been blaming Sam Darnold versus the Blitz, and some people have been blaming the right side of the offensive line for a lot of the issues that Seattle had against the Vikings, really struggling in that first half, running the football, and also really struggling throughout the entire game of throwing the football. And I do think that there is some belief around Seahawks fans and around the entire NFL that Sam Darnold has never completely fixed his issues against the Blitz. And you can see in the photo here, like, he was clearly getting chased after for most of this game. But I don't feel like a lot of the issues in this game were actually on Darnold when it came to how he handled the Blitz. Now, the stat line is not going to jump off the page to you. You're not going to look at any of this stuff and say, hey, Will, you're completely right. He had a stellar game despite some of the issues early on. And you can tell that aside from the interceptions that Darnold threw against the LA Rams, this is the worst game that he's had all season. I mean, his yards number is way down. His completion percentage being at 54%, essentially. That's way down below his season average of right around that 68%. And the QB rating just wasn't there. He wasn't able to get the ball out to Jaxon Smith-Njigba. When he did get the ball to A.J. Barner or to Cooper Kupp, there wasn't a whole lot of room for them to run after the catch. A lot of balls got knocked down in this game. And Darnold's issues with the Blitz in the past have made him the easy scapegoat for this situation. What I would say, though, and I'm going to give you some stats to back it up, that this actually really wasn't his fault, and a lot of the blame should actually go elsewhere for the issues in this one. But I want you to tell me, is Sam Darnold the reason and the person to blame for the offense's poor performance on Sunday? I've already told you, I don't think it's on Darnold. I think it's on another position group, and I think you could actually potentially even throw your offensive coordinator in this as well. It's easy to blame Darnold. He's the quarterback. This is part of what they go through, right? You want to be the figurehead. You're going to get all the praise when things go well, but you're also going to get attacked when things go bad. And the Rams did a good job of this, forcing him to have a lot of interceptions when he was blitzed. It's clear to me, though, that Darnold needs to improve against the blitz. There is still some room for him to grow as a quarterback in the pocket, understanding where the blitz is going to come from and where his safety valve is. He clearly did not always have that option ready to go in this game. So yeah, it's a little bit to blame, but it's not the full thing to blame. The full thing to blame for me, or the piece that should get the majority of the blame pie, is the offensive line. I think that the offensive line had one of their worst games of the season against the Minnesota Vikings. Brian Flores clearly had a game plan that he wanted to attack, and he specifically went after the right side of that offensive line, and it felt like he really targeted Bradford and Abraham Lucas. What I noticed in this game was there were a lot of 3 players to the right side in situations where it was a 50 protection. What do I mean by 50? That means 5 offensive linemen blocking, no tight end help, no running back help. So 5-man protection. It felt like Flores did a great job of adding in either an extra linebacker or having 2 linebackers on that right side to confuse Abraham Lucas and Anthony Bradford, and confuse them he did. Flores had a clear game plan and found a weakness in communication on the Seahawks offensive line, and Clint Kubiak did not have a counterpunch for it other than, well, you're going to get in the backfield if we have to throw, so we're just going to run the football the rest of the game. Now, the Seahawks were able to run the ball at a manageable enough level that they were able to win and really grind this game out in an ugly, ugly win style. But what happens when you play the San Francisco 49ers? I'd say Robert Saleh is a pretty darn good defensive coordinator. He just saw what Flores did to you, and I understand that Flores blitzes more than anybody else, but if Robert Saleh sees that and goes, hey, you know what? I'll start blitzing a little bit more because Flores had some success, that's going to be a problem for the Seahawks. If Shula over in LA sees that, hey, maybe week 16, we dial up some more pressures on the right side, that could be a big problem for Seattle. And the Vikings executed that game plan to a perfection. Imagine what the Rams, what the 49ers could do with an even better defensive unit. Now, let me know, do you think that I am correct? Did Brian Flores beat Clint Kubiak on Sunday? Type Y for yes down below in the comment section, or type N for no. I've made it clear Brian Flores is maybe second, third best defensive coordinator in the National Football League, and he really used and abused a weakness on that right side in Seattle. Did Clint Kubiak not know how to fix that? Now, the Vikings picked on these 2 guys, and I don't want to really call them out other than to say there's room for these 2 both to improve. Obviously, there's a lot of frustration with Seahawk fans when it comes to Anthony Bradford and his performances, because when he loses, oh boy, does he really frickin' lose. Look at this picture here on the screen. You're going to notice something. There is a player that is running free at Sam Darnold. By the way, this is why I don't blame him for the blitz issues. He had 2.5 seconds to throw. I bet you he had 1.5 seconds to throw on that one. If you find a quarterback that can be good against that type of pressure, let me know. I mean, shoot, your tight end's still in the line of scrimmage. He hasn't even gotten into his route. But Anthony Bradford there, number 75, he is stuck on a player who is not blitzing. He chose the wrong guy, and the linebacker for the Vikings got free, rushing in all by himself, getting immediate pressure on Sam Darnold. And this isn't just a one-play sample size. This happened continuously throughout this entire game. It's happened continuously throughout this entire season. How many times do we have to watch Anthony Bradford either pick the wrong guy, have his back to the line of scrimmage, or worst of all, throw a freaking no-hitter and not touch anyone while someone goes free to get Sam Darnold? We have to fix that. Whether that's the communication between Abe Lucas and Bradford so he knows where he's supposed to go, because the tackle does make the protection calls on that right side, or is it time to just completely move on from him? We'll talk about that here in just a moment, but I do need to let you know about my good friends over at Prize Picks. It is the holiday season, the best time of year for sports. Bowl games, basketball, matchups, playoff pushes. It is all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which game to watch, there is one place where it feels good to be right. Prize Picks. New feature alert. Prize Picks now has early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. On Prize Picks, how you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose Flex Play, where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want the biggest payouts, go for the Power Play. No matter your play, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. I have a little 3-pick power play for this weekend's action. JSN, more on his receiving yards get back game. Kenneth Walker, more on his rush plus receiving TDs. And Kirk Cousins, yes, this is a defense, less on his pass yards. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. I thought this was a pretty funny photo. Like at one point, when your quarterback is on the ground after getting sacked, palms upping his offensive lineman going, what the hell? I don't get how anyone can really blame Darnold for what happened in this game when you really dive into the issues on the offensive line. I feel like at this point, we have seen enough of what can go wrong for Anthony Bradford. And Brian Flores runs a unique defense. To be fair to Brian Flores, he runs a defense where he likes to walk up a lot of linebackers. It's confusing for the offensive lineman to figure out where the pressure is coming from. And if you don't auto loop fast enough, you're not going to be able to figure out who to move on from when your main protection unit, aka the main backer, your most dangerous man, decides to bounce back and how to get back into protection, help your team out. I mean, even Abe Lucas didn't really have a fantastic game. Now, when you look at his PFF grades, they're not terrible. I mean, his run blocking is basically at an 80 grade. That's pretty darn good. I'll tell you right now, if you get an 80 grade, you had a pretty darn good day. His overall, that's that 76 number right there, that's pretty darn good. Now, it was lower for the Seahawks in that game, but that's because the left side absolutely dominated. But that pass blocking grade being at that 65.4 is not good enough. We saw Lucas even give up a couple of big hits on Darnold in this game. And I don't want to say that it's a complete, hey, left side's strong, right side's weak. But you could tell that they did not handle what Flores had going for them as well as Zabel and Cross did on the other side. Abe Lucas is a darn good right tackle in the National Football League. He's playing like a player that should be in the conversation for a Pro Bowl appearance. I don't know if he'll get there, but I'll tell you right now, you have communication issues because Anthony Bradford looks completely lost all the time. And Abe Lucas, in this game, got exposed a little bit when it comes to twists and stunts, especially for someone that likes to run those bingo stunts, Mike linebacker going and picking off that right tackle so that the defensive end can go in, or wedges against this team. Wedge is same thing but flip. Defensive end comes in, takes out that guard, so the linebacker can flip over to the other side for an outside rush. You got to be able to give Darnold time to throw. He can't fix his issues against the blitz if he only has 1 second back there to throw. And if the Vikings are only rushing 5, we should be able to get 5 guys to block them. Because there were multiple times in this game where, Minnesota blitzed, but they didn't blitz more than the amount of guys that you had been in protection. I was frustrated, man. I was frustrated. Felt like Brian Flores absolutely worked you in this game. And even when the Seahawks offensive linemen were able to get in front of the Minnesota Vikings players, let the Vikings defensive linemen get their hands up. You had 3 pass knocks down in this game at the line of scrimmage. Honestly, when I looked at that stat, I think it's wrong. I think it's closer to 4 or 5. Just my feel, how I feel like everything went down in that game. Even when you were in front, the Vikings seemed to get to Sam in other ways by getting the ball down so he couldn't find open receivers. There were a couple times there were open receivers on 3rd down. He just didn't get the ball to him because the offensive line didn't do their job again. Don't be shocked if there is a change made. Head coach Mike McDonald was on his radio show yesterday, and he did say that while right now everyone who's starting on that offensive line has earned their spot on that offensive line, including Anthony Bradford, that when Jalen Sundell comes back, don't be shocked if there is an open competition for certain spots. Now, what would happen? Sundell would potentially move to that right guard position. That was something that they talked about in the past. If there was an injury to either Zabel or to Bradford, that Olu Oluwatimi would come into center and Sundell would bounce out either way. But right now, I think there needs to be a fix. I think there needs to be a change. And I think a lot of other Seahawk fans would agree with me. You have an issue on that right side. And I think we all kind of know who that person is. If he's the best thing you got, well, then that's a problem. Because, well, you aren't getting better at that position this year because the help isn't coming from inside. It means you better spend some money in free agency next year or go get a good draft pick. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to share this video on social media. Help more Seahawk fans join the family over here on Seahawks Today. Daily Seahawks content that they're not going to want to miss out on. If you're not subscribed to the channel, you already did the hard part. You hung out with us through the whole vid. just go on in and hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much. I'll catch you guys later.